Excellente. So, quickly about me. ETP, Employment Training Panel, it's a state of California agency. I have been there 28 short years, so I know this program pretty well. My role has been, the last 20 plus years, marketing, economic development, selling the program statewide, if you will, or at least my territory is middle of California, Oregon to Bakersfield, so I'm certainly covering down this area. We do have another analyst that covers Hollister in the Bay Area, but there's really just 4 of us in the state covering this area, or covering the state. So I'll run through these slides real quick and give you a taste of what our program is. Essentially, it's we're representing training money. So we have training money. This is your money that you pay in your taxes. All for-profit employers pay into the tax, creates the money that we have. So what's ETP? State agency that uses pay-for-performance contracts. So a lot of people think we're a grant, call us a grant. Even people that work there call us a grant, but we're not a grant. We are a performance-based contract. So we give you an amount of money and you earn it by doing what you say you're going to do in that contract. Basically training and documenting training, not that difficult. We don't provide training, so you can use anybody you want to be your trainers, your instructors, your teachers. We don't mandate the topics, so it's customized. You decide your training plan, what your training is going to be at your company or for your participants. And you select and approve trainers. So you're creating your training plan, we put it in our contract, you roll out that training and document it and earn your funding. Our funding for this fiscal year starting July 1, new money $103 million, so it's a real good time to get into our program because it is the start of the new year. Timing should be a little faster for you because we're spending new money. That's how much we've got this year is that $103 million. Average is more like $90 million, I would say, over the years, and we do spend all of that money, or I should say, we put it out to employers and for training in the state, all of those funds. So some details of the program. We do both single employer contracts and multiple employer contracts. So a single employer contract is, with any eligible employer. Locally, someone like Corbin has held contracts. Almost any type of employer can hold the contract. Then a multiple employer contract is where you've got a group of employers, an association, an SBDC, a community college, someone like that holding a contract where they're serving multiple numbers of employers under their contract. So a couple of different ways that we're putting that money out there in our contracts. Trainees can be employed, retrainees, so we're mostly doing incumbent workers. The majority of our contracts, they're with companies that are retraining, upskilling their workers to do the things that they need to learn to do to make their business more efficient, more effective. We also have some contracts that are training people that are unemployed at the start of training, so they're generally on unemployment benefit or they've exhausted it. And those people are getting trained by training agencies and then placed in jobs. So that's a part of what we're doing as well in those MEC contracts. And then we also have a piece of our program that does owners of small businesses. So this is actually training the small business owners how to run their companies more effectively. That would be more like an association or a chamber of commerce holding that type of contract and allowing that training to occur for their membership. The reimbursement is based upon number of hours of training independent of cost. So what we do is we don't argue about the budget and pennies and dollars because that takes a lot of time. So we have fixed fee rates that we reimburse with. Here's our amount of money that we're going to pay you, and you're going to earn that per hour per person. Essentially right now in the program, the fairly standard rate that we're going to be using this next fiscal year is $26 per training hour per person. So if you put 10 people in a room and you're training them an hour of training, you're getting $260 for that hour. And you certainly should be able to provide training for that or less. So we're not necessarily going to pay up for all the training depending on what type of training you're doing. I say you can do a Mercedes training program or you can do a Ford. The Mercedes obviously costs you more, and you would be kicking in a little bit more for that training. We're going to be paying for a good portion of a Ford training program. Depending on size and how you leverage those funds, of course, with the classes. Reimbursement is based upon the number of hours of training independent of the cost, 8-hour minimum of training. So to earn reimbursement, someone has to just do a minimum of 8 hours of training. That's in a 2-year contract generally. These contracts can be 1 or 2 years, but the majority of the contracts are 2 years of time. And then of course they're working full-time and earning an ETP minimum wage, which is, you know, commensurate, near the state minimum basically. So in this area, it's approximately $12.50 per hour is our ETP minimum wage.
Eric?
Yes.
If a person being trained is being paid more than $26 an hour, does it ratchet up?
No, it's independent. It's fixed no matter what. So it's independent of what they're making. It's because it's related to cost of training, right? It's a reimbursement for the expense of training. So it's not really related to the person's wage. That's just something that we're looking at the end to make sure that they're making enough money to support that type of training. Okay, so employer customized job skills training is eligible for the reimbursement. You know, like I said, you're deciding what that training plan is, what's in your contract. Pretty much the only training that we do not fund is legally mandated or generic training. So legally mandated might be some of the OSHA training is mandated. You've got to do that, so we can't reimburse for that. But most other types of training that we could talk about today, we could rattle off all the different types of training that are out there. We will pay for all of those trainings that can be included in our contracts. Training can be delivered in multiple formats. So, you know, typically training is classroom training. You're putting people in a class and there's an instructor and they're training people. But certainly you can do on-the-job training or something that we call, you know, productive lab. So you're teaching someone how to run a machine for the first few hours. That's when the real learning's happening, right? After you sit in the classroom, you've got to show them that productive lab type part. On-the-job training is certainly allowable in our program, as well as any online training or computer-led training. We can reimburse for all of that. So curriculum for ETP, it's really not a big syllabus type deal. You're really just giving us an outline of your training topics, the delivery methods, and the number of hours that you're looking to train in some of those topics. Any combination of training providers may be included. So again, you're deciding who's the instructor, who's the trainers. The most financially prudent person is someone on your payroll already, your training manager, your foreman, your leads. Those are your most cost-effective trainers because you're already paying their wage. The money that we pay you then goes in your revenue. Some of our current initiatives, so we've got some specific initiatives that we're working on. Cascade is a new initiative working in cybersecurity, entrepreneurial, priority industries in defense, aerospace, manufacturing. And we're partnering with CMTC on that stuff there on the Cascade. Veterans training, so if you're training veterans, we can reimburse for those types of trainees. Alternative and renewable fuels, we have some funds from the California Energy Commission that we put out via our contracts, and those are supporting alternative vehicles, alternative fuels. Now that's obviously pretty focused on electric and hydrogen fuels and vehicles. Then we're serving the underserved training populations with generally with the workforce development boards or something like that. And then we do apprenticeship and non-traditional apprenticeship training. So we're helping fund a lot of the trades via their apprenticeship programs. So again, a statewide program. We've got 4 people that are marketing sales like myself, basically listed here. I'm covering that northern central California region. Renee is the person here really in Hollister that covers this area. And then we've got the 2 folks down south, Ryan and Yvonne. You can contact anybody at ETP to help you. Myself or Renee certainly would help serve you in this area. We come out to companies directly, explain the program in a little more detail as to, how do you access these funds? How do you go through the application? We then assist them with the application as well as the analyst that's assigned to their application. So, also unlike a grant, you're not on your own doing this. There's a staff person that's supporting you and helping you with the program, with the application. I think that's the gist of what we've got that we're going to cover today. Maybe some questions?